Hey, what do you guys think about this UI? I'm a little bit questioning of this UI. Can we manage this? Can we manage reviewing a video with this UI? We're clicking our skills. I don't know if we could. I respect. It's gonna make a good thumbnail. It's gonna make a good thumbnail. If we're clicking our skills in a 22 Sanguine, it's gonna make for a good thumbnail. What do you think? We got Healbot. We got whatever this add-on is called that shows the party frames or whatever. Isn't this the perfect video to review? This is basically my UI. Oh man. All right. What do you guys think? Do we review this vid? I think this is it. I think this is it. Let's fix the music a little bit in case we decide to use this for. So we're gonna do a video review. This was submitted in the Yumytv Discord. I'll read you guys the message. Actually, wait, I'll move chat. The chat's okay here, I guess. I don't know. Where do I even put chat? Maybe I'll put you guys down here. Okay, let's read his message here. Let's read his message. Alright, here we go. Looking for advice to better my gameplay as a Kyrian Holy Paladin. Okay, nice, we got Kyrian. A lot of people are going to be asking about Kyrian because of the Covenant swapping, so... Looking for advice to better my gameplay as a Kyrian Holy Paladin running high keys. I know my UI is basic, but that's how I like it. I did 6k overall DPS here and would like to do more. Alright. Chat is a little wonky. I can't find quite a good place to do it. I usually like to put my chat in the top like left area, but we got some stuff going on here, so it might be a little bit messy. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at this UI. This is an exciting UI. So since we haven't done one of these in a while, I think it'll be good to talk about making improvements in UI. So while I'm okay with not having a lot of stuff in the middle of the screen, I think having your basic rotational abilities is pretty important. If you're having to look down at the bottom of your screen for literally the entire key to see every time your Hammer of Wrath judgment or your Hammer of Wrath comes up, every time your judgment comes up, every time your Crusader strike, I don't know about you, maybe you're playing on a small monitor, but for me this is really tough. Also, this is, at first I thought this was like an Omni CD. So we have two different party health bars here. We have our main health bars up here that are kind of like buried in the corner. And then we have our party health bars here. This is an interesting UI. Okay, I don't know about... I feel like we may need to do like a move around. I would like to see a little bit of a UI overhaul, you know. If we're doing 15 or 16 keys and we're just kind of like vibing and not really caring too much, then I think, you know, our UI isn't super important. But when we're doing 22 Sanguines and we have some UI issues, I think we should, I would recommend taking some time and kind of clearing some stuff up. So the first thing I would recommend is I would just get rid of all of this. It looks like whatever add-on this is, we're not even using it at all. So we should just completely remove this, right? We should just completely remove whatever add-on this is that shows party members if we're going to use I think this is Healbot. I've never seen this add-on before, but I'm guessing this is Healbot. I also feel like our action tracker is a little bit big. It's taking up a very large amount of space here. And I'd like to see this a little bit smaller. I mean, our skills are on the bottom, and then our details, damage, and healing are above the skills. I feel like our rotational abilities should be closer to the middle of our screen, and our healing and damage meters should be further away from our screen. I also think that using some sort of an add-on to keep track of our party's defensives, like what's available, is really useful for Holy Poly as well. Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with this UI. Also, we have another mini map down here. Okay, so let's start the pull. Okay. Okay, we're clicking. Is this all of our spells? Hold on. Is this all of our spells we're clicking? We click wings, we click Hammer of Wrath, and then we click on our tank. Mouse down, back down to the bottom. Dude, I shouldn't laugh. That's mean. I mean, I respect it. Look at his mouse. Just look at his mouse from this very short amount of time. Think about how much work this guy's putting in. Watch his mouse. Ready? Okay. He's walking up. Okay. Clicks wings. Okay. Then clicks Hammer of Wrath. He has his target. Then he runs up, clicks his tank. Then back down here to click Consecrate. Then Judgment, then Hammer of Wrath, then has to move his mouse all the way back up to the bottom of his screen. Then we're Hammer of Wrath, then we're Seraphim. Divine Toll. Okay, now we're blasting. Okay. I'm not going to dwell on this too much. But I would recommend, if you're doing a plus 22 key, that you're not clicking all of your skills. I know there are some probably very good players that are clicking all their skills. I don't quite know the reason. If there is a good reason, you know, just ignore this feedback. But I would recommend starting to use hotkeys. And there aren't, like, you don't need to use all of them at once. I would definitely recommend, especially ones that you have to move up and down a lot, or buttons that you're pressing very often. Like, for instance, Light's Hammer has got to be so brutal to have to click with your mouse, because you have to drag all the way down here, click it, drag all the way up here to place it, then you have to go all the way down, and then you have to press another button. So yeah, I would definitely, by far the biggest improvement that you could make in your game without even watching the rest of the video is using hotkeys. Using hotkeys on everything. This pull I struggle with a little bit. One thing you can do on this pull is to use like a different camera angle. You can see that all of your nameplates are cluttered on the top, and it's really hard to click on stuff. Another thing I've been doing recently is just playing with smaller nameplates, height wise, just so I can find, because a lot of times, like for example, right now we're clicking on an animated weapon, and I feel like I'm putting this guy on blast, but you know, we haven't done a video review in a while, and sometimes we just have to put guys on blast. Okay, we name the video that DPS though, Big Burst 22 Sanguine. Okay, and then we're just blasting DPS into an animated weapon that doesn't even, it just dies on its own off of a timer. Be a little bit careful when you're chasing the Dragon of Overall, because doing, especially as a healer, your priority damage is going to be of the utmost importance. Because as a Paladin, you're doing mostly single target damage, right? You're doing mostly single target damage. So for example, right, you have these skirmishers, and this Mist Dancer especially. Look at how healthy this Mist Dancer is. This pull is going to get slowed down so much, and it wasn't just you, right? It was other people on your team, but because no one was focusing this Mist Dancer in this pull is going to get slowed down so much. Yeah, it probably Sanguine healed a little bit, but man, Priority is super important, especially in a dungeon like Sanguine, where there's going to be a lot of different mobs. There's going to be a lot of different mob HP. There's going to be a lot. Like, this is part of the problem with the idea of, oh, I'm fine clicking, right? Like, yeah, all of your attention goes towards clicking, but think about how much harder it's going to be to do priority damage and like always be hitting the right target. One thing I want to point out that our hero did a very good job is staying alive. That pull, there's traps, there's frontals, there's a lot of stuff that kills you in one hit. I'm sure everyone watching this right now has experienced where you go into a Sanguine and then the first thing your teammate does is they die to the trap or they die to the frontal. So we live there. I've definitely died to many of those traps before. One thing that's nice about reviewing a clicker is I can see every single button he presses. I can see every single button. I need to start figuring out where some of his cooldowns are. So where is... Okay, here's Lay on Hands. Here's Devo. I like that we pressed a lot of buttons on this first pull. I like that we pressed Lay on Hands and Devo. One of the big problems that we see when we review videos on here, especially lower keys, more in like the 15, 16 range, is that they're not using their like sort of mini cooldowns enough. That being said, you have to be careful about using it when you're using everything else, right? Like Wings, Seraphim, Divine Toll should probably be fine, but I'm never going to complain about people using Devo. The other downside to clicking is that you're forced... Is he keyboard turning? There's no way. Hold on. Now I'm watching. Wait, he's keyboard... This guy's a hero. Look, we can make fun of him all we want, but if you're keyboard turning and clicking all your spells and you're doing 22 keys, I think a lot of people watching this right now are kind of like second guessing their own ability. They're just like, oh, I should be doing 22 keys. This has got to be a troll. I don't think this is a troll. I don't think... Should we look? Amazonia. Okay, let's look at his close this video. Sorry, Dot. Amazon. I don't think it's a troll. I think he's legit. I think he's a gamer. Yeah, I mean, these are the key levels he's doing. This is respectable. He's doing 23s, 22s, all keyboard turning and clicking all of his spells. I'm impressed. I don't approve. Okay, let me make it clear. I don't improve. I don't approve. But I am impressed. Another thing to note is we're playing Kyrian here. I think Seraphim is passable with Venthyr as well, but especially good with Kyrian, just because you can use Divine Toll to fill up your holy power. It can be hard. Like, playing Seraphim is hard because your first couple holy power in the pull is very valuable, and having to press it on Seraphim, which does basically nothing, feels really bad. But when you Divine Toll, you know you're going to get all 5 of those holy power back. So again, back to focus targeting, right? Look at our target right now. We're targeting a tick. We need to be targeting this brute. This brute has the most HP of every single mob by far, right? But because our eyes are all the way down here, we're targeting not the brute. And the brute is going to be like, the brute is the guy that you need to focus. Should always be trying to hit the highest health mob until all the mobs are even. Yo, also Adderall Addict, thanks for the 9-month resub. And Omniverse, thanks for the sub. I appreciate both of you guys. So anyway, you see this again? This is something, this is very, very common in low keys as well, right? Not to say 22 is a low key, but everyone just kind of attacks whatever. They're good at dealing their doing their damage rotation, but they're not hitting the right target, right? And then you end up with something like this: one brute with a bunch of health and then a bunch of small mobs. And that was one of the biggest things I noticed when I was a noob and when I started playing with Dorky and his squad was that they made the packs go so much faster because they always hit the highest health mob. They would always hit the highest health mob. And you can see now how things kind of get messy. Like, all this time that we're spending on this brute, if we were all hitting the brute at the right time. And again, as a healer, we're not solely responsible. I'm sure some of our other team has guilt, but... Okay, so here we go. So again, by far, we'll use our hotkeys and make sure we're focusing the right mobs. I feel like the way that we've set up our boss mods is a little bit messy here. It's literally in the middle of our screen, which I guess is okay, but our bars are overlapping a little bit. So yeah, we definitely need a little bit of a UI overhaul here. He's playing Ret Lego. Does anyone... How do we know where he... Oh, he has 2 charges of Hammer of Wrath. So he's playing the Ret Lego. I actually don't know what you're supposed to play as Kyrian. I think if you're playing to try and live, you play Shock Barrier, but I don't know what you play for DPS. I think the Ret Lego for double Hammer of Wrath is reasonable. I think it's fine. We're not blasting this boss. This is the problem with Kyrian HPAL, right? We do big damage on these trash pulls, but this is where damage is so important. Like, this is where a Venthyr HPAL is just going to pass up everything. And I'm not trying to put any hate on the Kyrian HPALs or the other HPALs out here, but you know, this is the part of the dungeon where you immediately are just glad that you have a Venthyr HPAL. Okay, so here we go. We have Divine Toll, which is nice. Divine Toll must feel really good on this boss, though, in living wise, because you can always just Divine Toll every single set. Let's see, we use our Seraphim, we use Divine Toll. Everyone's still hurting pretty bad. Let's see. Oh my gosh, this hurt. We're code red here. In these situations, I will sometimes hard cast a Holy Light on the tank, because the tank is usually taking a lot of damage, and also it'll give us 2 holy power in a situation where we can be very, very starved of holy power. Like, running a high DPS build feels great, but when we're faced with a high tyrannical Kryxis, sometimes our high damage build can feel bad. Do we have Bop here? I think we used Bop at some point, but I always like to save my Bop for this moment when I start to run out of juice and I just want to bop someone so we don't have to deal with the charge. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but bopping this person is something that is very good. And we are dead. To be honest, we used almost all that we had. I think it may have been a problem that we overused a little bit on the first pull. We don't have our lay on hands quite yet, which feels a little bad, but oh, we do have Bop. Okay, so we had I found our Bop here. We do actually have Bop. I would have recommended bopping and then running away. We definitely needed to use Bop on one of those charges. It's not like it's necrotic or anything and we need to hold it. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on all these friendly health bars, and at the same time I can't even tell what's going on. I don't know if our tank has cheated or if he has meta or anything like that, which can be a little bit tough. What's party chat saying? Should always let healer get balls. Okay, this is gonna be a small thing. This is going to be a small thing. This is to help your mindset in keys. Don't tell people what to do after the dungeon. Like, what is the point of telling a pug what to do, right? Like, just let people play. Like, the boss is already over. Like, what's the point of telling people, like, oh, this is the way you do this boss? Like, I don't know. I think messed up my healing rotation. Like, does that mean it was their fault you messed it up? So they don't do it in the next key? I mean, we don't care what they do in the next key. Hold on, what happened? What happened? Look, that's like a big thing. That's a big thing, right? That's a common response. oh, like tell people what they do. But here's the thing, right? Everyone in this group is like roughly the same skill probably. So who are you to tell them that, you know better than them, right? Like, what if their way is right and your way is wrong and you made mistakes, right? Like, you should be spending your time in dungeons, if you're trying to get better, thinking about what you can do better, not what your teammates are doing better, right? Like, any energy that you spend in a pug telling other people what to do is just wasted energy that you should be using to try and make yourself better. Don't pretend like you care about other people and their future keys, because you don't. You don't, 100%. I'm telling you, every time that anyone in a pug ever says, oh, this is how you do this or whatever, it has nothing to do with learning. It's always like a blame or ego thing. And I know you're gonna say, but Growl, not me. Yeah, you. Okay. So we get into this pull. This is sort of a problem with Seraphim too, is you have so many setup globals. Like, you have to walk in, Light's Hammer, Consecrate, Seraphim, Divine Toll, and it's like you have so many buttons that it can be hard. So how did we even die here? Sorry, I have to watch this again. Was this just casts? Bolts or whatever? This is a pull where we have buttons to press. We have DP there, we have Blinding Light, we have a lot of buttons that we had to press there. Anytime in Sanguine you get these really big caster packs, you should be rotating between all the buttons you can. And I know you want to blast here, I know you want to get in here and press all your buttons, but it's living first. And we haven't, I don't know if, all right, there we go. We used our Blinding Light once, but we got to get that out faster. Also, don't forget you can use line of sight here too. You can line of sight on this wall if the casts are ever on you, especially these curses are a really, really long cast. So just line of sighting these is really helpful. Although, to be fair, it was a little annoying the way the pull was done. Like, all the mobs got really, really far before they... Like, a lot of times it's nice if the mobs are grouped up, like, in the door, and then you can just, like, use the outside of the door to line of sight. But ultimately, not mistakes that cost us too much. But on these big caster pulls, be ready to slam out those buttons. I don't think we had Devo because we used it on the boss. But we did have Blinding Light, we did have DP, probably had Hodge as well. Yo, Chi, thanks for the 10-month resub, friend, I appreciate it. Alright, we're blasting the cold guy. I'm sure this isn't, yeah, the amount of not having the amount of time left on your CDs is really rough too. Like, you can't see in seconds. I think it's just an option, like in the base WoW settings, to show a number above your spells. A lot of people ask that when they're like setting up their UI, how I have that. It's just a WoW option, I'm pretty sure. Okay, we're looking at our healing. Okay, we cleared out like all of this hallway. This shouldn't be too bad. Oh no, we're getting the sprites. This is like the dorky hold W route, isn't it? Where you pull the sprites into this pack. Alright, we're blasting. We're Divine Toll. Is this just like the Kyrian Pally move where you just run in and you just press all your Seraphim, Consecrate, Light's Hammer, Divine Toll on every pull? I mean, it certainly does a lot of AoE damage. So you don't need to walk away from this, by the way. You can just use Freedom on yourself before the Dread Bindings go out. You don't actually need to walk out of this. Maybe he wanted to use Freedom on someone else, or maybe there was some other reason why we did this, but you should always just pre-Freedom, because you're losing a lot of healing the fact that you're not in melee. See how far you're starting to fall behind in all your buttons. One thing I noticed here too is we're not pressing Light of the Martyr at all. I think our friend died here, right? Like this should just be... We should just be like this guy being at 12% health or whatever and not pressing Light of the Martyr here and pressing Crusader Strike again, I think is an error. Like in a caster pull like this, when you have a lot of mobs, unless you're very confident that they're going to live, you shouldn't just be trying to Crusader Strike to get holy power back. Like, you definitely want to... Don't be afraid to press Light of the Martyr. That was one thing I learned from playing a lot of MDI, is Light of the Martyr is very, very strong. And like, you can't just sit there and always expect people to live, because here's the other thing too, right? Like, this guy has power word shield, so now like he feels unsafe, or maybe this is just fortitude, I don't even know what the UI, but like, you don't want your DPS to having to be stop DPS and like pressing self heals and stuff because they're panicking. Like, just pressing Light of the Martyr and keeping them up is important. Like, that was a very chaotic sequence, and we didn't press Light of the Martyr at all there, really. Another thing, we also didn't press our DP again. Divine Protection is just such a short cooldown. It is such a short cooldown. Like, all of these pulls where there's group damage, you should just be pressing it over and over and over. And I know the reason that you're not pressing it is because it's hard, because you're having to click all your different abilities, right? It's hard to, you know, in a chaotic moment, it's hard, it takes time, but that's where keybinds help you a lot, right? Because it's not even on the global. You can just be pressing it like over and over. Any pull with this amount of group damage, you have to remember to just keep pressing it. This pull is these three with the Sentinel. It's not a meme, it's an actual clicker. Yeah, I mean, he's owning. We looked up his Raider IO profile, and he was doing 22, 23 keys. You know? Yeah, I'm not flaming the guy, but at the same time, in a video where we talk about what people can do better, we definitely have to talk about the fact that we're not using keybinds. It is like, okay, on one hand it is impressive, but on the other hand, you can definitely see where the, like, he has very obvious sort of like blocks in his gameplay, and the fact that he's doing 22 and 23 keys by clicking and keyboard turning and using like a wonky UI, like the fact that if he just took the time to learn how to use all of his keybinds and fixed up his UI, like, he'd be doing 25s, 26s like almost immediately, right? Like, the amount of dungeon knowledge that is required, like, he has all of the knowledge about the dungeons, very likely, right? I guess he didn't use freedom on the pack before, but you know what I mean, right? Like, this is a very obvious leak. It's a very obvious leak that can be easy to correct. Another problem with clicking, I bet, is you press tab a lot, right? Having to press tab to select targets can be really bad. All right, so here we go. So since we didn't use Bop on the first boss, we'll have Bop for this guy. I guess I can imagine we might have had Bop up anyway. All the shit on the left is too much. Yeah, I mean, I do like having the. What happened here? Let's look at what happened here. Yeah. So again, right? Look, I'm just gonna keep driving it home. All right. See this? His eyes are down here. His mouse is down here. He's not looking at his screen, right? And he thinks he's by people, but really he's standing next to brawn and trees. And so he gets feared. So he gets the bleed. One really cool thing that you can do, if you get targeted by the charge, what you can bop yourself or bubble and then taunt and get the sever as well. So a lot of times in this situation, your tank is starting to hurt pretty bad, and as a paladin it's hard to keep him topped, but after you bop yourself here, you want to immediately taunt the mini boss, and you can take the sever as well. It can be a little disorienting for pugs, but like, this guy's tanking at 22, so he should definitely have the awareness to notice that that's going on. But that's a really, really helpful tip, because it helps you save stuff, right? You don't have to worry about pressing any buttons for this guy. Nice. We used our DP here, which is perfect. We used Lay on Hands. Maybe we needed to use that. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Again, one of the strengths that this guy is he's using his buttons, right? He's constantly keeping his Devo on cooldown. He's constantly using his Lay on Hands. He's using his Divine Toll as well. He is using it pretty offensively. I'm not gonna pat him on the back too much for the Divine Toll use, because he's basically just using it on pull with Seraphim to do damage every time, which is fine. Like, that's more or less how you should probably be playing in a Tyrannical key for like all the trash packs. But at the same time, like, he's doing a really good job keeping his other stuff on cooldown. I like that blind. Looks like maybe it was just a short lapse of judgment on that one pack after the first boss, because he's also been doing a pretty good job using his blind to interrupt casts. Tank is doing his best to manage Sanguine here. So how did our priest friend die? What happened here? Okay, so we see the books on him. Yeah. See, again, here's another example of this situation, right? Our priest friend is at 20k health, and we don't really have a button, and we see that this book, we see that the book was on him. We needed to use Light of the Martyr there, I think. We definitely aren't using Light of the Martyr enough, and it doesn't feel great to use. Like, I understand why you don't want to use it, and a lot of times you can not get away with it, but Light of the Martyr is a good button to press when people are in danger. Another small tip here is you should be single rezzing instead of mass rezzing. If one person on your team is dead and you mass res, if someone else somehow gets in combat, either by running into a pack or whatever, it might put you in combat and stop your res. But if you're single rezzing, then the res will keep going unless unless something really, really bad happens. Does he even have Light of the Martyr there? Hold on. He doesn't. It's one thing if you don't have Light of the Martyr keybound, but it's another thing if you are clicking and you don't even have it on your screen. I think unless you guys can see Light of the Martyr, I don't even see it. And look, I'll give you a quick fix here. Just take off Flash of Light. You should almost never use Flash of Light. If you really are that tight on buttons, then you should take away Flash of Light, and you put Light of the Martyr in that spot. It could be on Healbot, maybe, but if it is, then he's not using it, because I've been watching the detail streamer thing, and look, I'll be honest, I'm being kind of hard on the guy, right? I'm being kind of hard on the guy, but that's what happens when you're doing 22 keys. I'm not going to go easy on a guy doing 22 keys. If you submit a video and you're just learning how to heal, and you're doing 14s or 15s, I'm not going to blast you too hard, right? But when you're doing 22s and you're making YouTube videos talking about your DPS, I'm going to have to do it. MDI Globalist Blast Clicker. Feels bad. Yeah, so if anything, to go back to his original message, right? I would like to do more overall DPS and keys. Looking at this run, I think you need to be more healing focused. I think a lot of your problems are not your overall damage. Look, everyone likes to do overall damage, but the problems I'm seeing are you're being a little bit greedy and not using your emergency heals when you need to, and also you're not priority damaging. Like, if anything, a big help for you might be to just take this overall meter off your screen. Like, you need to stop fixating on your meters. I know I've been known to say look at the meters, but I think this might be a situation where you might actually benefit from your play if you're not looking at the meters. I do respect the pump, though. So we're making reasonable use of these lanterns. I'm not going to comment too much about the routes, just because it can be really tough in pugs, especially a pug sanguine, to organize a route here and make good use of the lanterns. So we're not going to be too hard on the tank. If the tank wants to be blasted by his route, then he could submit a video on Dorky's Discord. Okay, what happened here? I have a feeling we stood in bad, but let's watch it anyway. Yeah, I mean, I see what he was going for there. Look, I'm not gonna flame the guy. I've definitely done that before too. Pretty sure I've done that in MDI, so damn, my bad. All right, taking responsibility for it. I appreciate it. Okay, here we go. He's upset because he lost his buff. He lost the buff. What is... All right, this range... I don't know if I like this range check thing in the middle of his screen, right? So you can say that he has, like... You know, he's got important things not in the middle of his screen, and then things that I would consider not important he has in the middle of his screen. Okay, so we're blasting away. Our poor Kyrian H-Pal single target. What do you guys think about the fact that the health bars fade out if everyone's at full health? I don't know if I like that. To me, it's giving me anxiety because my health bars fade out when people are out of range or line of sight. So it's kind of giving me anxiety, but it's kind of interesting the way that it is. It's kind of interesting in the fact that it might help him maybe ignore people's health a little bit. I don't know if there's too much we can glean from this boss. We used our lanterns and we destroyed this boss. Our Venthir Moonkin and our Shadow Priest blasted. Our Boomkin says F storming. Personal preference? Yeah. You know, it is what it is. I'm not really going to comment too much on, you know. Like, I think moving important things to the middle of the screen and then moving non-important things away from the middle of the screen, I think is just, I don't know what the word is, but not objective. It's just how your UI should be. But in terms of, you know, things like that, I'm not going to comment. I am interested. I do kind of like the idea of 2 different rows or 2 different columns like that, where he has tank, healer, and then 3 party, the 3 DPS. Kind of interesting that he does that. I don't necessarily... Also, his target is by his party frames too. I think that's kind of cool as well. That might just be a consequence of the fact that he's like using Healbot or whatever for his target frame, but it is kind of cool. I think sometimes my target frame is too far away from my party frames and it can be hard for me to pay attention. Buttons should be closer to team health bars. Yeah, that's one of the big changes. Look, I would say you should just stop being a clicker, but if that isn't an option, then yeah, we got to drag some of your rotational abilities up more. You, like, at the very least, swap out your skill bar on the bottom and your details. I know we want to look at the meters, but oh, we're fighting Sargon. This guy's easy. We can just skip ahead. We don't need to talk about this guy too much. Another thing that this guy did that I didn't talk about too much, I noticed it, but he took the Sanguine power instead of the haste power. I think that's totally reasonable. For me personally, I think the Sanguine power hurts a lot on single target damage, and for me, I value single target damage really highly, especially in a tyrannical week. And so doing stuff that does less single target damage feels bad. But I think there's nothing wrong with taking the Sanguine power as a pally, especially if you feel like your haste is too high and you're struggling with mana a little bit. Is he running Light's Hammer as Kyrian? He is, yep. He is. Which I think is okay for damage. I think it's okay for damage. Because keep in mind, when he's Kyrian, he's also running Seraphim too, right? And he sort of has this burst AoE opener that he can use on every trash pack, where he does Light's Hammer, Seraphim, Divine Toll, and do a lot of burst damage. Okay, so let's see. He's got a lot of stuff available here. He has Lay, he has Devo. Okay, let's see what he does here. He also has Bubble. Okay, let's see. Our mage is in block, which is nice. Crusader, strike, Word of Glory. Now this fight, now remember what I talked about earlier about pressing Light of the Martyr as an emergency? This is a fight where you know exactly when the damage is going to come in, right? So this is a fight where you don't need to use Light of the Martyr. Like, there's not going to be any unexpected damage. You may need to use it, but you know exactly when you need to use it, right? Like, you'll know when the guy's about to die. So this is a fight where it's totally fine to just, you know, press Crusader Strike and build up your holy power and pay attention. I like our cooldown management there. It was a little heavy-handed. We used Devo and Lay and block. I think here I'd like to see us bubble this next one. There's no reason not to, and it can just help your teammates collect orbs. I think that's what we're doing here. Hey, big Divine Toll. Gosh, this has got to be so hard as a clicker. Oh my gosh. Props to this guy. Props to this guy. So we're going to be pretty dry here. And one thing, if you're playing in a group with Discord, this is where you can be like, hey, this next one's going to be hard, because already I'm getting anxiety for the next AoE burst, right? Like we have DP. Oh no, we might have pressed it early. Okay, let's see what happens. We're rapidly trying to get orbs. Your orbs are getting yoinked. We're yoinking someone else's. Our mage uses a really nice block. Looks like everyone used their defensives pretty well there. I don't know if we were in Discord. I assume we weren't in Discord because we were typing earlier, but we barely managed to make it out of that one. One thing you want to do is try and pay attention to your holy power and make sure you can pool up holy power before the burst as well. I wasn't watching super closely if we were doing that, but if you're struggling with this boss a little bit, like having all 5 holy power and having both your Crusader Strikes ready before the burst can be nice. Like right now we only have 2 holy power, right? And we're kind of like focused a little bit too much on picking up the orbs, and a little bit like we could have Crusader Striked a few times and got our holy power up. Also, as a side note, we're playing Glimmer. I think playing Glimmer is fine, especially because we're playing Kyrian. Maybe we have to play Glimmer. I don't have that much experience, but I really like Beacon of Faith in here. Beacon of Faith feels really good. If he wants to do more damage, he can't even do globals while he's moving. Yeah. Oh yeah. By far the biggest improvement that he could make in his game is by using keybinds. But hey, we got this far, you know. It's sort of like me. Sort of like me. If I'm ever like, hey, how can I make my stream better? And then you guys will be like, hey, idiot, use a webcam. You've been using a JPEG of a cat for the last 1.5 years. And then I'm going to be like, no. So I may tell this guy to use keybinds, and this guy may say no. I respect his decision, even though it's definitely a big improvement he can make. Okay, so here we are in the Gauntlet. We got to be feeling pretty good about our mana, just because we don't even have the haste power. I would have liked to see us try and sneak in a little bit of a drink there, but it's probably not too bad. I can't see our stat weights or whatever, but we definitely want to press DP here. We definitely should have pressed. Oh man, it's like I saw it coming. It's like I saw it coming. Again, you got to remember, every single one of these caster packs that are throwing out bolts or whatever, you just got to throw out that DP every single time. Just don't even overthink it. We could have used our blinding light there too. I mean, obviously there's a lot of buttons we could have pressed, but every single one of those caster packs, don't be afraid to just press DP. If you feel like your brain is too busy, you don't have the brain globals to pay attention, then just press it. Like, don't even think about it. Just as soon as you go into that pack, just press it. A lot of times I'll call for personals from my teammates as well in those packs if it's like getting hectic. Is he keyboard turning? I think he is. There's a lot of buttons we could have clicked. Let's say that. Yeah, I have the same weak auras. I use the Ellismere Dungeon Essentials or whatever. I actually haven't had sound on in this guy. I usually don't play sound when I watch people's keys. Oh my gosh, look at this. This guy's under attack. This is where he'd ask for bark. You'd give him... Oh my gosh. Press DP! Our poor Shadow Priest friend is under attack. Oh, it looks like he had aggro. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay, we're in. We manage it. Again though, let's... Our friend here is constantly using Lay on Hands, constantly using Devo. Let that be a lesson. Let that be a lesson to the people who, if you've watched the 15s or the 16s and you see people use hotkeys, but they don't use their cooldowns, like using your cooldowns regularly might be more important than using keybinds. Like this guy is doing 22s and he's not, but he uses Devo, he uses his Lay. He's using his Divine Toll and Hammer every pull. Like he's doing with what he has, he's definitely doing the best he can. Alright, so now we have our buff from the lantern. We should be blasting. I can't see our buffs. Can you guys see on our screen where our buffs are? I actually don't see our buffs or debuffs anywhere. I feel like maybe I should have noticed this by now. Under the unit frames top left. Oh no. Top left corner. Yeah, we definitely need to do some cleaning. We need to do some cleaning of this UI for sure. The world is top left. Yeah, it is true. Lot of information. But anyway, we're still blasting. We have lots to use for the last boss. We don't have health pots, monk ass. We're down to 5 mana pots and 0 health pots. Gotta be careful there. She's clicking every spell. She clicks all her attack buttons. I've tried helping her, but she's pretty stubborn about it. Hey, I mean, sometimes we're just stubborn about things. You know, not gonna... Let's be honest. There's things you can do. It's an obvious thing that you can do to improve, but sometimes we draw the line in strange places. Okay, the Boomy's asking for us to hold Lust for a bit. We're sneaking some mana real quick. We have lots for this boss. We got our bot, we have our bubble. Should be fine. We also don't have any mini bosses here. One thing you'll find as you're doing higher keys is you may need to learn how to do this boss with slow or with Soggodon, but for now it's just fine. Will we use our bot? I don't know. I think it's... What do we... I didn't see... Hold on, what did we bop? We bopped ourselves? I would have liked to see you just try and dodge that. I feel like that bop was a little bit greedy. Like, if you're going to use bop or bubble to stay in on this boss, you should be doing it, like, when Lust is active and, like, you have wings and stuff. But even then, it's, like, not that great, you know? Like, I would almost rather just save that for danger. Like, especially if we have 7 minutes left on the timer or whatever. And, like, yeah, your damage is okay, but you could also be bopping the Moonkin, right? Like, you can bop the Moonkin or the Shadow Priest so that they don't have to move as well. And that would be probably a better use of our bop. Because you can always just run out and horsey and try and dodge it. Yeah, so it isn't fully clicking. It's just offensive abilities. She has she has her heals, I'm guessing, on mouse buttons or some sort of like mouse over macros, but the offensive buttons are all clicks. So it does look a little overwhelming, but at the same time, like, she can still heal without going down to the bottom. Is it voodoo? I guess the voodoo looks very different. To me, it sort of looked like Healbot, but I guess it doesn't really matter too much. But either way, we're blasting. Oh man, our team is under attack. We used our bop and our bubble, but everything should be fine. This boss shouldn't be too stressful if we don't have... This is kind of interesting. Is this like a... Do you guys see this? How it colors the frame when they're targeted? Kind of cool, actually. I think that might disorient me a little bit. But I just noticed how that kind of is going on, and it's kind of cool, I guess. I always like seeing what other healers do, like with visibility stuff. I think there's a little bit too much color coding and fading in and fading out to me, but like it's very easy for her to see immediately who's targeted by the Wicked Rush, right? Like maybe I wouldn't do it for all targeted abilities, but it means they have a bleed or debuff. No, I'm pretty sure it's because they're targeted. I don't think it's because they have the bleed. All right, we did it. Oh man, Sanguine did 4.6 million healing this key. 6K overall new record. Oh no, we're talking shit about our overall. Oh no. Well, I was a bit hard. I didn't mean to be too hard. Shout out to our friend Yamazonia for submitting the video. So to go very quickly, the things that I thought that she did well, that definitely showed that she did higher keys, like 22s, etc., is using cooldowns often. Constantly lay on hands was being used. AM was being used. For offensively, Seraphim, Divine Toll, Light's Hammer was always being used. I think we could have saw maybe a couple more uses of Bop like on this boss, but for the most part, like compared to keys where I see like 15s, 16s, way better use of the cooldowns. And I think that's important on how to play Holy Paladin, is making sure you're using those cooldowns in between. And I think honestly, she could probably do a very good job playing Venthyr HPAL as well. I don't know if they've tried, but like usually the thing that holds people back the most about playing Venthyr HPAL is not being able to make good use of those cooldowns to keep people alive in between Ashen. So that's what I would say the good parts are. The bad parts were, look, you know, we talked about a little bit the clicking, but the consequences of the clicking, I think the biggest one that I noticed is our target selection. We were constantly targeting stuff that I wouldn't describe as like the priority mob, just because it's really hard, right? Our mouse was very busy. Our mouse was at the bottom of our screen, and sometimes we would be attacking things that isn't the high health mob or the mob that needs to die, just because it's so hard for us to target switch. And then also I don't think we used Light of the Martyr once in the entire key. In a key like Sanguine, especially where there's lots of like random burst damage, I think Light of the Martyrs needs to be our go-to button. It seems like our opinion was never use Holy Light, never use Flash Heal, or what's it called? I don't know, Flash of Light, that's what it's called. But yeah, thanks for our friend for submitting this video. I thought it was very useful. It's cool to see someone who's very different from everyone else, you know? I feel like there's a lot to learn of, you know, like I think a lot of the HPALs we've looked at before are very, very similar, you know? They play the same way everyone else plays. Their main problem is they don't press their cooldowns. It's kind of interesting to see someone who plays a little bit higher up and does things a bit differently. Man, 2 health pots this early in the dungeon, I would be scared. Yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people that have you know, disagreements with me when I say this, but you know, when I was talking about, oh, don't give your team feedback in the key, like in my opinion, you shouldn't give people unsolicited feedback. Just because generally you don't want, like, I don't know, it comes from a place that's not great, you know? Like in your head, you think you're giving them good advice, but in reality, it's like usually what happens is things go wrong, and then it's like, oh, well, this is what you need to do better, you know? Like, well, I think if your goal is to truly improve, you should be focusing on like you personally and what you can do better. But I mean, I'm not to say we're not all guilty of it sometimes. You know, not to say there's anything wrong or toxic about it. That's not really what I'm saying. It's more just, you know, something to think about. That was a fun key. I haven't done one of these reviews in a long time.